Okay, our next speaker is our Kyodan president, Pieper Toyama from Jikoen Temple. Pieper.
I like to begin with talking about the path that I've taken to get engaged with Jodo Shinshu, and then talk about aspects of Jodo Shinshu that I find to be very important, very central to my life experience. So the path. It started in Pauilo Honganji. I was a kid. My mother was a Dharma school teacher, and in those days, the content of Dharma school was Aesop's fables. She would every Sunday tell one fable and the proverb at the end of the fable, and she used a flannel board. I remember that very clearly. So Jodo Shinshu was Aesop's fables to me. Okay. Then in my 20s and 30s, I was working in Hilo, and I joined Hilo Honganji Kendo Club. And so that was my next connection with Jodo Shinshu. But my association was not based on any understanding of the teachings. It was based on paying dues and going to all of their volunteer work projects as a Kendo student. But there's one document that was very meaningful that I encountered. It was the most meaningful document in Jodo Shinshu that I encountered, and it still is one of the most meaningful, and that's white ashes. And so white ashes, my father died when I was 22, and white ashes just stated the truth of the experience that I had had, because my father died in an accident. So one day he's fine, the next day he's gone. And white ashes speaks to that in a non-intellectual way, in a very experiential way. So it was a very, very important document. But my real engagement with Jodo Shinshu began when I was hired as the head of Pacific Buddhist Academy, because I was charged with establishing a Jodo Shinshu high school. So I had to figure out, well, what is a Jodo Shinshu high school? What aspects of Jodo Shinshu doctrine was the school going to teach and reflect, and how are you going to convey those teachings? Those are all questions that I had to get answers to, and no one had answers to those questions. So all I got was advice, no answers, but lots of advice. So then Bishop Yoshimori told me, and this is the guidelines I followed in my engagement with Jodo Shinshu. He was quite explicit to me about the school. He said, you are not to convert students. And then he told me to use my educational experience, my training, and common sense to determine how to integrate Jodo Shinshu teaching into the school's curriculum and operations. He said, you can go to ministers to clarify, but don't ask them how to teach it. You can understand it. He said, use your common sense and your educational experience. And he was very clear about that. So he gave me a great deal of freedom and creativity to make the school a Jodo Shinshu school. And that he was relying on my the body of knowledge I had as an educator to accomplish that. And he was not relying on the body of religious knowledge to accomplish that. And he just opened the door and said, go. And he never interfered in any way while I did that. So I felt that this is about reading and making sense of the reading. Like this White Ashes and PBA. And Reverend Makino, and okay, so that was Bishop Yoshimori's advice to me. So, but nevertheless, I had to read Jodo Shinshu. I had to know and understand that body of religious knowledge. Okay. And I had to decide what aspects. And the ministers, there was no minute, he said, don't have the ministers decide what. You decide what. I said, okay. But I approached it as an intellectual challenge, read all kinds of stuff. And you know, if you've read Jodo Shinshu's scholarly works, that it's a very difficult task. The language of Jodo Shinshu is a very thick wall to penetrate. So I read many, many, many books. I marked it, I underlined passages, I reread them, trying to understand intellectually, what does it mean? So passages like immeasurable and inconceivable light and life. Man, I banged my head against that phrase a lot. And then I realized, wait, it's immeasurable, inconceivable. There's no answer, but I don't care. I kept reading. I kept reading and reading, figuring somebody is going to tell me something that makes sense to me, and I'll grasp it. And then Namo Amida Butsu, the phrase, the Nimbutsu. What does it mean? What is that? The 18th vow in Shinjin. If you read a lot about that, after a while, I realized that I was not going to get there intellectually. And the advice of Reverend Makino was, look for the experience under those words. Okay? So take the words and really find what experience underlay those are found the foundation of the words. And he said, you go find that experience yourself. You can't find it in the books. So I stopped reading. And I read only books that that included lots of experiential anecdotes. And you know who is really good to read is a former Monchu. His 3 books. He relies heavily on experiences and life. And it's easy to read, and it makes sense. And you should read his section on the Nembutsu. You would be very surprised. So the advice of Reverend Yoshimori and Bishop Makino is what led me, is how I approach it. I was not engaged with Jodo Shinshu intellectually. That was, for me, a dead end. Okay? It had to be the experiences that I was having in my life, in my personal life, that made sense to those words that I could not understand. Okay? And so that's how and so it was a constant looking at personal experience and what is life like for me as it's unfolding. And so these are the personal truths that I've arrived at. So the universe, the cosmos, the particles, the energy, the empty spaces in the universe and beyond is not neutral and is not random. It has purpose. It is constantly creating paths for me to live with fulfillment, purpose, and awareness. All of this is simply in motion to that end. To the entire compassionate universe is conspiring to help me live a life that is free of judgment, and to accept all experiences as they are. It's conspiring to help me live a true and real life, as Tai Uno puts it. And I call this universe of compassion Amida. That's Amida. And that's what it's doing at every minute of every day. All of the things, known and unknown, causes and conditions, people and people known and unknown, is fulfilling that one purpose. And the purpose is fulfilled. I have that life. I just can't see it. Okay. The other personal truth is everything is interdependent, and it comes out of who Amida is. Every particle, every empty space, every piece of energy that is in movement are all dependent, and they're all working for one single thing, for one purpose. All things change, are in constant change. Another personal truth, and this was fairly easy to arrive at, the truth that I am Bombu, that I have Bombu nature, that I am ignorant and a self-centered human being. And that is the truth. And that truth drives a great deal of some of the other things I'll talk about later on, but that's the truth about me. And the other truth, the personal truth that I arrived at, is that my actions, that karma is real, and action causes. Okay, I can do things, I do things that has consequences. I set in motion, okay? And that's the truth. So these are personal truths that are at work all the time. And these, I think about these things all the time. So these are not things I just make up and say. Every day, I think about one or more of these things and the truth about one of those things. Or I see one or more of these things working. And you actually can see it in my own life. So one of the things that, for me, why Jodo Shinshu, I think it's one of the most, it's the most dynamic religions. And I can't see why everyone doesn't become a Jodo Shinshu follower. It just boggles my mind why they want. And one aspect that makes it so is that it allows creativity. It allows you to make sense and gives experiential meaning that makes sense to you and to your life. Okay? So it's perfectly suited for you. It's perfectly suited for me. And I know it's perfectly suited for every individual because it allows creativity. It's not a religion where ideas are set down upon you and you have to fit into those ideas. No, the ideas mold around you. That's how I feel about it. And that's how I approach it. And that's why I think about it. And that's why I think it's dynamic. It's changing. And it's a powerful religion in that way. It's very personal and it's very relevant. Very relevant because of that. Because you are part of making meaning. And that meaning is experiential. So let's talk about, I want to talk about now is the experiential and making meaning. So for me, one of the greatest things about Jodo Shinshu is seeing moment to moment. It is a religion that is at work moment to moment. When I'm really on it, which is not all the time, but it allows you to live like that. And it allows you to see, so it allows you to see moment to moment how Bombu you are. All the time it allows you, it opens up doors how Bombu you are. It allows you to look at life as it's unfolding, just as it really is. Most of the time I don't see it as it is. I see it as I want it to be. But I do know that if I stop and really patiently looked at what is happening, I can begin to separate my ego from what it is. Okay. Of course, I don't automatically become patient and loving it right at that moment as I see life as it is. But I know that, right? At least, it's opening up. Yeah. Moment to moment, there are opportunities to see what I am receiving, what is being given to me, what Amida is laying out for me, the path that he's laid out. And you can see very easily the support, the love, beauty, health, compassion that is coming moment to moment. And that is the easiest thing about it. Then there inattention, depression, illness, anger that comes also. As Amida is laying that out. And I have an opportunity to identify those as gifts from Amida. That's really hard. It's a hard thing. But if I really sit with that idea long enough, I can make myself less angry. It's possible. I can see that, because I say, oh, this is a gift, and it is the seed of happiness. It's hard, but you know what? at least you have the potential. I have that potential. That's the wonderful thing with Jodo Shinshu. You always have tools in your toolbox, So let me go back to it. So again, these are aspects of Jodo Shinshu that allows me to look at life moment to moment as it's unfolding. Okay. So the central experience for me now, the central experience of Jodo Shinshu, which happens all the time, every day, many, many, many moments in the day, it's basically a two-part process. One is seeing and perceiving. So it's always seeing and perceiving the compassionate universe at work, or life unfolding as it is, just as it is, or each unrepeatable moment. So that's the first. It's always recognizing, look at what's happening. What a wonderful thing. That's the first part of the experience. And the more I do this, the more Jodo Shinshu, or the experience of Jodo Shinshu, is more relevant, more important to me. And if I see that, the moments I see that, there is a fairly automatic expression of gratitude through the Nembutsu. And so the Nembutsu, for me, before somebody told me, the Nembutsu, you consciously say it, but that's not okay. That's false Nembutsu. When you say, oh, I got to say the Nembutsu, you say it. The real Nembutsu is when it comes without you summoning it. It just comes out. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. A sound is going to come out of my mouth and me not thinking about it, or telling my brain, say the Nembutsu. I said, yes, that's how it is. It's Buddha speaking. I said, yeah, okay. It's like a cult, right? Until one day it happened. So one day, I'm embarrassed to say where I was. I was in a third hole of Royal Kunia golf course by myself. I'm looking out over there, looking down, and that is the most beautiful, beautiful sight to see. Pearl Harbor, Honolulu. It was a perfect day. I was playing golf all by myself. There's no lines, nobody chasing me. It was the perfect moment. And I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden, Namo Amida Butsu came to my lips. I said, what? And that was an experience. I said, it's for real. It does happen when you see something that's so perfect, that was laid out for you, and it's so perfect, there's nothing else you can do but say the Nembutsu. And it happened. And so the Nembutsu, since that time, it was very important. And I know when I'm saying it consciously, which no count, and then I know when I'm saying because it's coming from someplace else. And so that's the central experience. The Nembutsu is a central experience for me. But it cannot happen unless I'm seeing life as it's unfolding. One of the aspects of this central experience is that I believe I'm predisposed to acts of kindness when this happens. But I don't know, you have to ask my wife. So I just think that I'm predisposed. I don't always act it, but I think there's better probability of me acting kind after the Nembutsu. Let's put it that way. Okay. So let me say something about the Nembutsu, because it's very important for me. And this is what I've thought, okay? So one of the things Nembutsu does is, I know it connects me with life. It connects me with the moment. The moment that elicited the sound is very much recognizable, and I'm embracing that moment. So it's really easy when it's beautiful and it's joyful and you're happy. It's the easiest Nembutsu to say. But I also know that I say it when I am in despair, when I am in a negative state of mind. The Nembutsu also comes out. And what I think about it when it comes out in my negative state is that it simply allows me to go on to the next moment so that I don't wallow in that negativity. It moves me on. So it doesn't cure me or anything like that of my negativity, but it moves me to the next step so that I can get out of it. That's the experience that I have. And then this is what I've thought about the Nembutsu as we think about Jodo Shinshu in Hawaii. So does the Buddha who speaks through my mouth and says the Nembutsu, does he speak in other languages? Does he speak in English? Can I say the Nembutsu in English? And is that okay? Can I say the Nembutsu in Hawaiian? So can I say Namo Amida Butsu? Can I say Amida is embracing me? Or can I say I Paulele Kamea Malamalama, which is a Hawaiian translation of Namo Amida Butsu. I had a Hawaiian scholar translate it. You're the first person, first audience I've ever revealed that to. Okay. I Paulele Kamea Malamalama. And I'm wondering if the Buddha would understand that. So, I think that. Let me conclude by these thoughts. Is that here's an example. I'll read an example of how Jodo Shinshu works in my life in a very, very specific experience, okay? And that is doing service projects or working at Jikoen. And you all temple members, you guys do so much work, okay? So when I arrive at Jikoen and begin work, whatever work there is to do, we bag barbecue chickens, they sell produce at our bazaar, power wash the lanai, raking, picking up rubbish. When my hands begin working in the midst of others working, I feel connected to the temple. And when I hear members chatting and laughing, and we do laugh a lot at Jikoen, and when I see members working, I feel connected to them, that I am part of Jikoen, and my life really does feel full at that moment. And my body, though tired, is happy and satisfied, and there's a real sense of well-being. I know that I'm not alone in the world. I know that I am alive and I'm well. And for me, that moment, when all of this realization comes into my mind, is a moment of true and real life. I say, this must be what true and real life feels like. And this is a Namo Amida Butsu moment, Namo Amida Butsu. And I would say that. So the challenge we face today, I think, in Jodo Shinshu in Hawaii, is for our followers and for people who are interested in Jodo Shinshu to see that the rituals, the temple services, the scholarly works, the Dharma talks, the courses, the seminars, the workshops, temple activities that include social functions, cleanup, fundraising, community service, are all paths that prepare us to see and experience life, and then to express gratitude. All of those things are part of the profound Jodo Shinshu experience of life. It is not mendokusai. It is life. It is Jodo Shinshu life. And it provides everything we need to be fulfilled and happy and well. So, thank you.